There you go.
Hi there, can everybody hear us? Those that are on the phone?
Yay. It says yay.
Yay.
Yes.
Yay, yes. Okay,
Yay,
good.
yes.
Okay. All right. Thanks, everybody, and thanks for attending our Women We Admire series for today. I know it's the day before a 3-day weekend, so really appreciate you coming in. Yeah, so we're all relaxed today. We look forward to the women, to the presenter today. So I think most of you know, I usually have like a little speech. So I'm Shirley Bittling-Meyer. I'm the chair of PACSAL, which stands for the President's Advisory Committee on the Status of Women. We have about 34 members. This is a volunteer committee, and we're starting recruitment next week. So if you're interested, please look to the news. And we were actually in Link this week on Tuesday. So if you're interested in getting more information about PACSAL, you can go to the Link article that was published on Tuesday, or go to our PACSAL website. So as I mentioned, we're about 34 members strong. We have about 11 subcommittees. And what we do is we look at issues and opportunities for women at OP. And every campus has a very similar committee, so this one is specific to OP. For those that are online, if you want to submit questions, we're going to have time for questions at the end. So you can send in a chat question, and we will ask that question of our presenter this afternoon. Yes, this afternoon. So again, thanks for attending. And with that, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Evelyn Chang, who will be introducing our presenter for today, our speaker for today.
Sure.
Thanks, Evelyn.
Thank you, Shirley. So again, my name is Evelyn. I'm part of the PACSAL group, but co-chair of this one particular subcommittee we have that hosts all of our Women We Admire speakers. So it's actually been awesome to get Sherwynn to participate in our series, and it is definitely my pleasure to introduce her. She is amazing, and currently, I look up to you, because I'm a little taller than you. She is actually currently wearing multiple hats at UCI as the Associate Dean of Students and as the Interim Assistant Vice Chancellor and Chief of Staff for Student Affairs. Lots of things going on, and in her role, she's responsible for a few things, such as overseeing the many student programs, Read Life, Cross-Cultural Centers, the Women's Center, just to name a few. And in her spare time, she also chairs the All University Leadership Conference. She teaches at the School of Business at UC Irvine and oversees staff development. And I'm sure she'll talk to you all more about, what she does day to day and her amazing self. So without further ado, I introduce you to Sherwynn Umali. Yay! Thank you, Evelyn. Please share.
Does everyone here know each other? Yeah. Can we do names and departments real quick, and then for those in the room, and then if you want to chime in on chat, whoever's on the phone, that would be really great to see who's here and where you're all representing. Let's start with Chris.
Hi, I'm Chris.
I just met Chris.
I'm in Title IX with Evelyn. I'm Liz Terry. I'm in undergraduate admissions.
I'm Evelyn. I'm in the system-wide Title IX office.
Kimberly Barral, Student Affairs, undergrad admissions.
Alicia Jensen, I'm in risk services. I'm an environmental professional.
Oh,
Different sensitive stuff.
My name is Blaise Farrar, co-chair with Evelyn on Women We Admire and working in the Business Resource Center.
I'm Freddie Harms. I'm with the Academic Senate.
Helen Garcia in corporate accounting.
Shirley Bittling-Meyer, local IT.
Taisha Caldwell-Harvey. I'm in Student Affairs, Student Development, and Engagement.
Hi, I'm Paulina Lopez Castillo, and I am not in any department, but I am shadowing Taisha for today. Elisa Shee, System-wide HR Compliance.
All right, and hi everyone on Zoom. We see you in your little boxes. So thank you so much for having me, Evelyn. Thank you again for inviting me. I feel like this was, I don't know, it was months ago. Evelyn goes, hey, do you want to come up to Oakland and talk? And I said, nah, I love talking. What about? Whatever you want. Okay, so she is letting me have full reign, so here we go. What I understand this advisory committee to be is really to help elevate and help the president and OP and I guess system-wide to understand the needs of and the resources available to and what we can do for each other as women and hopefully allies as well. And so I have a really great privilege to be able to do this and that I have progressed through my career in the way that I have, and you'll see, I'll tell you all about all the things that I've done and all the things that have interrupted along the way and also stemmed from the opportunities that have been given to me and that I have fought for and that we all are doing probably on a daily, right? And so I'm gonna get started. And my favorite thing, although, I'm not unable to click. Hold on. Ooh. Is that going? Yeah. So there's my Bitmoji. That's when it's a rainy day and my hair is gonna fall flat, so but usually my hair is like this, and it's one of those things that when students meet me, they remember me. They're like, hey, you're that lady from, and I'm like, don't you ever call me a lady ever again. Inappropriate. But there is something to be said about my hair, and I'll always mention it because very often I think women have long hair. And to have short hair is a statement, and I cut my own hair because I don't trust anybody with my hair, but there is something, again, to be said about owning yourself and your image and your identity. So my Bitmoji is a lie today. So here we go. So I like to talk about how our work, and hopefully if we're doing the work that we want to do and that we love, that we really don't ever work a day in our lives, right? And so I say that, but then I also have to tell you what my job is and what my work entails. And this is our student life leadership. We have a lot of different departments within SLL at UCI. These are all of them, and actually we're about to create, we're just at the brink of finishing the job description for a director of the Latinx Resource Center. And there's a committee with faculty, students, and staff creating a Latinx Resource Center. And we're like, sure, we'll take more, why not? I'll make my font smaller, it's fine. And Ramin Talesh, our ABC and Dean of Students, and I work with all of these departments to ensure that students have resources outside the classroom so that they can thrive inside the classroom, right? And, along with all of the other departments and units within student affairs at UCI. Oftentimes faculty go, oh, how cute, you're doing really cute, fun stuff. And it's not all cute and fun, right? And really the reality of student affairs is that we get the leadership and the excitement and all, orientation and all these great things, but we also get the really hard stuff. Student crises, academic integrity and student conduct. You never know if a student's walking into a space because they are fearful of their college careers, right, because of a mistake that they might have made, or if it's that they're applying for an internship. So it's like, what are you here for? Let's make sure we're giving the right services. So those are the centers we work with. And so when I talk about my journey, I always have to talk about the beginning. Did you see how dramatic that was? Again, ready? The beginning. This is a photo that I got on Google of the Philippine Islands, where I'm from, and my family immigrated from there when I was 3 years old. And both my parents, each of them have there's a total of 8 siblings in each of their families. And we were the only ones from my dad's side to immigrate here, and then the second from my mom's side. The reason why we ended up being able to immigrate at all is because my uncle from my mom's side was in the Navy. So he was a cook on a ship in the Navy. And so he was in Boston for a long time, and we're supposed to be Bostonians. And then just before we were headed over, they moved to San Diego, so now I'm a San Diegan. Because it's so cold in Oakland, and I could not imagine how cold it is. So, the reason why my parents immigrated us, this is a photo of me and my brothers when we were kids in the Philippines, the reason why we moved here was for education. They wanted us to be able to have an education that they could not receive or not to the same level that they did in the Philippines. And so the story of my 3 older brothers, so the biggest one on the top, our left is Erwin. He's my second oldest brother. The one then right to him, the most bowl haircut possible, and Alwyn. And then the other one looking down, because we're probably both fighting over something, is Sherwynn. So Alwyn, Erwin, and Sherwynn. And I'm Sherwynn. Or border from that age, and probably because my parents hate us. So it's such a Filipino thing to do, right? You either mesh names together or you make up new ones. And so if you search Sherwynn Umali, I think I'm the only one in the world, but then all my siblings come up too. That's how school works, right? And I'll talk a little bit more about my family as we go. So in growing up as an immigrant, how many of you here are immigrants yourself? Right, so growing up as an immigrant, or even just growing up, it's, but specifically for me as an immigrant, there was so much that I didn't have the knowledge of. And really, it's because my parents didn't have the experience. They thought, come to the United States, American dream, we're gonna be ballers, we're gonna and then you're gonna be the president of the world, right? They had these big, big dreams of us growing up as an immigrant. They had big dreams of us, but growing up as an immigrant made it so that those dreams didn't actually seem attainable to me, at least. And while I was a kid, you know, you are somebody at school trying to fit in, and then you're somebody at home speaking a different language and eating different food, and then I bring that food to school, and then I get made fun of, right? And we were poor, too. We didn't have money. My parents were both working multiple jobs. My first job was when I was 8 years old, which is, don't do that to your kids, right? I was 8 years old, and I was helping my dad clean office buildings like this, just like this. We'd go in at 8 p.m., 9 p.m. when everyone was gone, and vacuum, take the trash out, and clean office buildings. And I remember sitting in a chair like this, right, an executive chair, a big corner desk. I shouldn't have done this, but I was 8, so nobody's watching me. And I sat in the chair, and I thought, yes, what I want. What they did, I have no idea. They probably had no idea what they did, right? But I thought, this is not what I see my parents doing. Who gets to sit in this chair? I really had no idea. But I saw my parents work in assembly lines and custodial work, things like that. And my mom was she was what do you call them? I don't know what they're officially called in elementary school. Yard duty, right?
Yard supervisor?
Yard, that's better. That sounds better than yard duty. But then I think we call them yard duty people. And my mom was like a really strict Filipina Catholic woman, and she'd blow her whistle and point at people and pull their ears. That's what you do in the Philippines. She's a teacher, and they pull kids' ears and go, sit down, and then kids are like, okay, sorry. But in America, that's child abuse, right? So she quit shortly after. But for me, it was like, oh my gosh, that's my mom, and people are mad at her, and then they're making fun of me. And so it's this kind of, you know, trying to acclimate to what the world here is so different. And in doing so, this is my first cell phone. Remember these? Remember the Nokia 5160? I didn't get that one. I got this one. It was so big that it didn't fit in your pocket, and the only thing it could do was text, make calls, not text. Students are like, what do you do with that? How do you text? How do you play games? And the only reason I got this phone was because I was leaving for college, and my mom wanted to be able to get a hold of me. I didn't know the phone number, right? None of my friends had phones, but they probably spent way too much money so that I can have this phone, so that whenever they called, I would pick up. And I show this to students, one for laughs, but also because of that connection we have with our parents, that yes, they let you go to college, but they still have they want to know that you're okay. And my second oldest brother, Erwin, as I was leaving for undergrad at UC Irvine in 1998, he was leaving for the military. He signed up to be in the Air Force. And he goes, Sherwynn. And I said, Erwin. That's not how it went. He called me Nana. Everyone calls me Nana at home. Nana, you can't stay at home. You have to go away, because otherwise you will live at home forever and ever and ever, because mom and dad will want me to live. Right? Do you feel that way sometimes with your parents? Like, don't ever leave. Hold on to you. And in the Philippines, we all lived together. Our neighbors were my dad's and mom's siblings. We all lived on the same street. There were multiple families in a house. And here, it's not like that. The hope is that you get your own house, right? But my parents definitely still had that mentality in mind. And so he, based on his suggestion, he would never tell anyone that he suggested it, but I lied to my parents and told them I didn't get into UCSD. Oopsies. I'm so sorry. I have to go to this place called Irvine. I don't even know where that is. I didn't know where it was. I didn't go to college visits, but I knew it was up the freeway based on the Thomas guide, right, that we had, and it was far enough away, but close enough. And so he was like, you go, and then I'll go, and my other two brothers stayed at home. None of them ended up going to college, right? So we moved here so that we can all go to college. None of them went to college. They still, to this day, haven't finished their, I think Erwin has an associate's degree, but other than that, it was me. So I felt at that point, okay, these guys are messing me up, right? They get to do whatever, and I have all the pressure of taking care of my parents when we get to that age of time to take care of them. So I felt immense pressure in college. And even at that time, my high school counselor, who saw all Alwyn, Erwin, Jerwin, and Sherwynn, because it's, you know, they're assigned based on your last name. So we have the same counselor. She said, you know, you should go to a community college. And I said, but why? I have really good grades. I worked really hard, and I'm not an innate, you know, I have to actually study really hard to remember things, and I wasn't good at exams. And so it offended me, but then it was also like, yeah, you're probably right, because my brothers didn't go. I shouldn't go either. But then I got mad, and then I thought, I want to be a high school counselor so that I can, you know, advise people better. And then I realized later, I'm like, high school is drama. I'm not doing that. No way. And then in coming to UCI, I really developed other interests and whatnot. I thought I was also going to be Janet Jackson's backup dancer. Still can be. I'm working on it. But then the reality, again, of having a stable income to be able to help support my family was really important. So UCI came, again, lied to my parents. Don't ever do that. Hopefully my kids don't one day. I volunteered at the Cross Cultural Center as my first involvement, and that was where I met it was the first time I saw a Filipino woman in a professional capacity doing work that was unlike my mom or my aunts, right? So she was the director of the Cross Cultural Center, Anna Gonzalez, who now is the vice president and dean of students at Harvey Mudd College, and she's had an incredible career doing her thing. And she, after doing RA and student housing in Mesa Court, I did orientation. I staffed orientation. That's where I met and fell in love with Evelyn.
We love spa.
We love spa.
It's magical.
And then I decided, hey, if I'm doing this, why not go abroad? And convinced my parents. I don't know how that happened. But I lived in England for a year and went abroad. And so I figured, you know, if we're gonna do this, let's go all the way, right? And then Anna tricked me, my mentor tricked me into going to grad school and doing student affairs. And I say tricked because she had study groups with her interns, and we were, hey, let's go study it in a department, right? So we go there, and then by the end of the study session, she goes, okay, next week, come back with 10 schools that you're applying for grad school, and I'll see you then. And we were all like, wait, we're going to grad school? What happened? So what did we do but listen to our mentor and come back with 10 schools? And then I ended up applying, and Maryland was a really great fit. And going on the way to Maryland, my partner, then boyfriend, now husband, Mike Knox, who's on this call. Hi, Mike. He's logged out. Oh, no, he's still there. I asked him, I said, what do you want to do after we're done with school? And he said, I want to be the director. I want to oversee SPOP. I want to be the director of new student programs. So he could do SPOP forever, because that's how much we love SPOP. Now he's actually the director of the Center for Student Leadership that oversees SPOP, so his dreams came true. And then I wanted to be the director of the Cross Cultural Center, because that's where I grew up and I learned about identity and myself and others. And then my first job out of grad school was working at the Cross Cultural Center. And then I ended up not wanting to be the director anymore, because that's right? Okay, so this is me and Mike in college. We met when we were resident advisors. It was one of those, like, you shouldn't date other resident advisors, but we were very professional. He had hair, I had hair. We have left hair. This is a photo from our wedding day outside of the Cross Cultural Center. He was an intern there as well. So we had this, you know, we both had very similar experiences at UCI. And now we have two baby anteaters. Oh. So this is a pretty old picture, but Miles is 10 now and Elliot is 5. So she acts like his older sibling, right, and bosses him around, and he's very, very kind to her despite her craziness. But I feel like we're training her to be a resilient woman, and she'll say, no person, I will not do that because you told me to. You need to ask for permission. Right? So that's the kind of person she is. All right. Are there any questions so far? No. Okay. So I always think, you know, and somebody said this a long time ago. Oh, look, Sherwynn's on, my brother. Hi.
Yes.
The thought of if you love what you do, you never have to work a day in your life. Have you all heard this? Yeah? And very often, the reality is sometimes we don't love what we do, but what we do is the gateway or means to living a lifestyle that we want for ourselves, right? So I'm never really a proponent of telling my students, your job has to be your passion. Oh, thank you so much. My nose is running, not because I'm emotional, but because of allergies. Thank you.
You could be emotional.
And I'm crying because I love what I do. All right, but if you love what you do, you never have to work a day in your life. And if you get to do your passion every day, then good for you, but that doesn't always happen. Is that okay? I think it's okay. I think you still have time beyond the 8 to 5 to do other things. And so I'll talk a little bit more about that as we go. But here's my past really quickly. I was an academic advisor in College Park, University of Maryland College Park. I thought I wanted to be an advisor forever because it's so great and talking to students, but then I realized they only come to you if they're in trouble, right? And there was this one student who kept failing multiple classes, and it was always because their grandparent had died. And I'm like, you have 12 grandparents? No, because he was lying, right? He came up with all these excuses as to why. Anyway, then I thought, I don't think I like this anymore. I want to do something else. But applied for many, many jobs. After grad school, I interned at the AAC&U, in DC, so took the train in, and Mike was working there full time. And then after grad school, after Maryland, I applied for like 60 jobs, right? And a lot of them were just becoming, it was just the time when things were going online, but I had to also mail in applications. And I didn't hear back from any of them. And I thought, what? I am awesome, and I have a master's. Isn't that supposed to be the gateway to everything? I mean, it says master. But the reality is it took me forever to land a job, and I finally got an academic advising position at UCLA, where then Mike was going to graduate school in a PhD program. And I was like, yes, thank you, I'll take the job, right? And then my Anna, coming back to my mentor, maybe 10, 12 minutes later after I accepted the job, called me and said, hey, do you want to work here at the Cross? As an interim, so the 9-month contract as a program coordinator. I said, yes, hold on, I need to make a call. So I called the math department where I got the job, and I said, something came up, I can't take the job, goodbye. I can never work at UCLA. But commuting from UCLA to UCI was not easy, but I loved working in the cross-cultural center, and so I did that for a while. And then, I don't know if any of you have done multicultural work, but it's heavy. It's hard talking about identity issues all day long, and then thinking about them through the night, and then saying one word incorrectly in the way that you didn't intend it, and students' feelings get hurt. It was so much pressure after 4 years of being there. And I was pregnant too, and I thought, I need to be able to have this baby and not be stressed out like this. And so the campus organization's director position opened up, and I thought, I want that job. I'm prepared, I know policy, I know faculty and students because of the work I did in the Cross Cultural Center, even though so much of that work as a program coordinator And a programmer meant coming in early to set up programs, staying late to be at programs, going to student meetings. I think that difficulty of work prepared me well to be able to then apply for campus arts director. So I had my phone interview, and it was a hot summer day in SoCal with no air conditioning, and I was sweating, and I'm like, yes, please hire me for this job over the phone. And I hung up, and I'm like, I'm not getting this job. And then I had the baby, Miles, and then they called me for an on-campus interview 2 weeks after I had Miles, at C-section at that. So I said, of course I'll come and interview. Don't do that. I busted my stitches open. But the way that we did interviews back then was a day-long interview. It was literally 8 to 5 with different 1-hour sessions with constituents in between, and a lunch with students. When, you know, an interview lunch, you can't actually eat, right? And in between, I'm pumping because I just had a baby. So I thought, so first advice, don't ever do that, right? But then 4 years as campus org director led me to associate dean of students when that position opened up. And I'll tell you a little bit about when I was at NASPA. Wait, I forgot where it was, probably Arizona maybe. A speaker there said, live your present as if it was your future. And at that conference, everyone, all my colleagues across the UCs were like, hey, associate dean position just posted at UCI. You think I should apply? And I'm like, yeah, you should. Hey, me too, I'm gonna apply too. But no one ever said, are you going to apply? And I thought, wait, why can't I apply for that job? And then I just ignored everyone from that point on. But live your present as if it were your future really made me sit and think, okay, if that's what I want to be one day, if I want to be an associate dean one day, I need to start acting like it. I need to start putting it out in the universe. I need to start articulating myself in a way that can have people understand, help people to understand that they can see me in that role. And so from that moment on, I went back to work going, okay, let me learn more about Greek life. Let me learn more about the LGBT Resource Center, because these are the areas that the Associate Dean of Students supervises. So, and I'll talk a little bit more about that talk later. Graphic design, I still love to do for funsies. And then consulting, I realized we can all do the work that we do on our daily and get paid very little for it. Come on, UC. In this corporate or nonprofit world, doing presentations and workshops and retreats and whatnot, doing that same work and get paid as much as we get paid in a month. Yes, please, let's do it. So consulting I kind of fell upon because I knew all these things. In some way, it was because I knew somebody who knew I could do it, and so they asked me to do it, versus I'm hustling. I don't have a website for graphic design. I don't have a website for consulting. I don't have business cards. And they all kind of happen because of the relationships we build, right? And I'm happy to talk more about the consulting stuff later and get all of you to have side hustles by the end of the day. Side hustles. So never stop hustling, right? And for me, it's because of the people in this picture. I don't want to have multiple jobs. I really want to have 0 jobs. I want to chill in Lululemons and watch Netflix, just popcorn all day. No, I don't want to do that. But because I know that to get my kids to college now, it's not going to cost $3,000 a year like it was when we were students. Remember this? Remember that? Now, what are we at? $15,000 a year for tuition?
Depends if you're going to bribe someone too. You know, that's the other way.
I'm on building up my income so that I can bribe someone to
You'll take big pictures.
And then,
Yeah, rolling team.
they're athletes, but they're not, right? No, but it's really about, I want to get them out of the cycle of poverty that we came into this country in and as. And so really, and putting education at the forefront in the middle of it. And not trying to be like, hey, you need to get straight A's, kids, or else. I mean, they don't even get grades yet, right? But really in thinking, I don't care where you go, I want you to go somewhere because I want you to have the experience of being able to be on your own and go to college. My husband will laugh at me when I'm like, okay, Miles, when you're when you have roommates in college, you need to make sure you do your dishes and pick up after yourself because you're not going to want to get kicked out of your apartment, right? And then my kids are like, why would we ever leave our house? I'm like, oh, I'm sorry, you're still young. So when they're teenagers, you better believe they'll be like, bye. So then all these sorts of lessons of what got me here. This one, unless you really can't do it, I never said no. And that's maybe to a fault and a detriment to my health and time and all that stuff. But if I have a very high energy level, I think, and I also have really good time management skills. So I never said no. And so doing that means you're exposed to many, many things. People see you doing the work, and then they can call on you and count on you. And we all know that relationships are really important in life. And one good example of this is when I was on maternity leave with Elliot, my daughter. She was just a little baby, all gross and spitting up. And I got a call and to be asked to oversee the volunteer program along with some other colleagues for the President Obama commencement that was happening at UCI. And so I'm like, during maternity leave, I thought, I can't do that. How am I going to oversee all these volunteers at Angel Stadium? No. And then I said, yes, I would love to do that. More, so for my baby. But not saying no to that meant that we had 500 staff, students, and faculty volunteers. And we had to run the trainings, and we had to make sure that they knew what they could and couldn't bring into the stadium, and where you check in, and all of that coordination made it so that all these people suddenly knew who I was. And not that I wanted the attention, but there is something to be said about knowing your colleagues from across the campus. When we have, thousands of colleagues and we only really know the ones in our department, then the exposure to be able to connect with people, and I love people, I'm the most introverted person ever. I'm so glad I didn't say no because I was tired that day when I was asked the question. But if you really can't do it, then you need to know your limits and say no. I say no so much more now than I ever did before. I'm also tired, so I have to say no. Building relationships, again, is so important and critical to everything that we do. And then creating a community. The reason why I won't do consulting full-time, even though it's so financially fruitful, is because I want an office to go to where I know people, where I care about them, where we can share stories and food and music and all that together. And you don't get that when you're a consultant. You go into an office, they've never met you, and you go, boom, here's stuff you need to learn, and now I'm gone, bye. Right? You don't connect in those ways. And so I need that community is really important. And then students are so motivating in a lot of ways. They also are drama in a lot of ways, but they're motivating because they have big ideas and big goals. And our jobs, mine, what I see student affairs as is how do we propel them to accomplish those things. And then colleagues bring so much to the table. We all come with our different backgrounds and experiences. You have a job title and job responsibilities, but there's so much more beyond that we can connect with in different ways. And so colleagues of mine have helped bring me to this point, and hopefully I am doing the same for others. And then the thought that I get to go to work every day. So for a long time in the morning, the morning hustle with kids is bananas. I don't know if you've ever, if you have a camera in my house, you just do like this. And getting them out the door in time and getting them to school in time so you're not a neglectful parent is not easy. My kids are good now. We have a routine and they can tell time and we gotta go. But I always used to tell them, I get to go to work today and you get to go to school. And not everyone gets to do that. Not everyone has a job that they love, or not every kid gets to go to school. And so that thought and that philosophy, I hope, is modeling for them that you are privileged, you have privilege to be able to do these things, and not everyone does, so let's not waste the opportunity and the time. And that the moment that I have to say, or that I do say, I have to go to work and just peel myself out of bed in the morning and drag myself out of the house, is the moment that I know that I need a new job. That hasn't happened yet in that way, but then there's sometimes where okay, I'm not challenged anymore, I'm not as happy as I could be, I'm starting to complain, and in those moments, then that's when you need to start looking. One, to open up opportunities for yourself and expand your own horizons, but two, so that someone else who will love your current job can take it on and experience it and probably do better than you in it, right? All right, so that's my best friend, Steph. She's so cute. So things I should have probably done or learned sooner. All right, one is to get a doctorate. Should have probably done that, oopsies. I got a master's and I don't like writing, I don't like research, and so I felt like it was torture. I was being hazed for 2 years. But I didn't realize that doors close after a certain educational level in some ways, right? And that the expectation is to attain the highest degree possible in order to have doors swing wide open. Now, 3 years ago, my son we were eating dinner with me, and it was Miles and Elliot and I think Mike was somewhere, and my son goes, "Mommy, when are you going to get a doctorate?" He was 7. I'm like, "Excuse me, what do you know about doctorates? You must have heard me talk about it, right?" And I said, "Well, I can't. I'm not going to, because I have to send you to school." And he's like, "Hi, why don't you do it and we can go to school too?" Well, because school is expensive. And then we talked about scholarships and financial aid. I know, this is a student affairs parenting. And he goes, after all that explanation, how much it costs, he's like, "How much is it per month?" And I don't know, that's awesome. He said, "Don't worry, Mom. I'm going to get scholarships so that you don't have to worry about me and pay for my school." So then I said, "Wow, thank you, you're so kind." And then he goes, "So that you won't have to be so old when you go get your doctorate." I'm like, "Dude, it's like you lift me up and I'm like, but I appreciate that, because I think there is something to be said about a kid understanding where their parent is, or even for ourselves, right? Like, I try to encourage people, go get your doctorate, go get a master's and all that. Because for me, there's a point in my life where it was more attainable than it is now, financially, specifically. But I think that for me, not having a doctorate, I feel like is a deficit, but it also means that I have to work harder in other ways so that I can be seen as someone who could do the job without it. And hopefully at some point, after the kids are done with college, I'll go get one. And for me, it's seeing women with kids, or women in general, attaining these degrees. I'm like, yes, girl, do it, keep going. The accomplishment is so big, and it's not easy. I'm sure Taisha once tell us about your doctoral program. It's for me, I'm just like so amazed at people who can do that, when for me, I can't even imagine having to write a dissertation, right? But I also know that at times, for myself, I just need encouragement. I need to be able to have the time to do it. So hopefully that's in the future landscape. Get more sleep is really interesting, because I have a love-hate relationship with sleep. I think it's, many times for myself, it's a luxury, but I also know that our bodies need it and we should do it. But so I tried one day, I'm like, okay, it's 10 o'clock, I'm gonna go to sleep, I'll wake up at 6, this is great, it's like 8 hours. And I go to sleep at 10 o'clock and I wake up at 3 and I'm like, now what do I do? Because my body is so used to it, and I need to start training myself to sleep more. Because as we get older, we have to take care of our bodies in different ways. So getting more sleep is something I should have learned sooner, so that my body's used to it. Work-life balance isn't a thing for me, at least. I don't know, do y'all hear take care of your work-life balance, Kim?
I say it's everybody's balance changes through. I've been in other spaces where your balance is always going to be shifted one way or the other, and be okay with it.
Yes,
Yeah.
just accept. For me, it's not a work-life balance, it's a lifestyle. I chose and choose this lifestyle. And so when you have, my partner works at UCI, I work at UCI, my kids are baby anteaters, like they're part of our community now in a lot of different ways. And So it's always, if I think of it as a balance, it's always going to be like, but we incorporate our work into our lifestyle. Like my kids go to orientations in the summer with us when we don't have care, and they know, like, oh, Daddy, let's stop. This is so cool. And it's not a separation completely, and that's okay. Millennials are awesome. Gen Zs, I worry about. I think as we go through time in these generations, there's so many different factors that we have to consider. And millennials, they have a really bad rep, right? What are some of the things you hear about millennials? Selfish.
Don't know how to talk to each other.
Yeah, interpersonal skills issues, right? Lazy. These are words that I'm not, right? These are words, I didn't say them. That they're constantly changing and moving, all that stuff. But the truth, and some of those are true, and some millennials are like, yeah, I don't really know how to talk to people, I'd rather just text them, right? But it's a function of how we have created a society for them. So is it their fault? I don't think so. But they're also the ones who, if you ask any millennial, what do you want to do with your life? They want to make an impact. They want to change the world. They want to use technology and leverage it to the best of their ability to make things better for us, right? And they're actually going to do it probably. Because if you ask a kid now, or a young person or a teenager now, what do you want to be when you grow up? The reality is the job that they probably want, it doesn't even exist yet, and they're just going to make it for themselves later. And I think that's different from how I grew up I'm an exennial. I was born in 80, so it's right on the cusp, right? But I am very traditional in thinking about what kinds of jobs there are, and that's just not the reality of the world anymore. So I think millennials, being as awesome as they are, they're going to actually change the world and bring disease with them to do it. And then we have to help cultivate that and allow ourselves to give them the space to do that. And then discover the magic of a best friend. So, at times, I remember in college or in high school, I had multiple best friends, right? It's like, oh, this is my best friend in this group and that group. And then you leave those spaces and you all move all over the world, and then you lose connection, and it's hard, and you lose that. My best friend Stephanie, the one in this picture, we went to high school together, and then she left for Carnegie Mellon to go to her undergrad, to teach for America. We didn't have cell phones back then. We didn't have email was a new thing. Remember when email just started? Like, oh my God, a message. Let me type back. That it was hard to stay in touch, but then she called me and said, hey, Aaron got into the UCI fellowship program, and so we're moving there. He's doing endocrinology. I'm like, what? Shut up. And then she ended up moving back to Irvine, and I think I was 32 at the time. We were 32. And then I lost touch with friends in my 20s when I had kids in my 20s, because none of my friends had kids, and they all stopped inviting us to things, right? And she's a mom of 3. She's crazy. One too many, I think. But that's what she wanted, and she's a stay-at-home mom. Completely different lives, but between 8 o'clock and 9 o'clock every night, we get on the phone, catch up on our days. We're each other's therapy in a lot of ways for us to be able to keep doing this, right? And we don't even spend that much time in person together, but we know we're there for each other. And that, I think, for women is really important. It's one of those things that it's like a gift at the end of getting through a really long day, is having someone to connect with and having a person who knows you and understands you to always stick by you. So that's really important to me. We will always make mistakes. Isn't that true? Sometimes I tell my kids, no, Mommy's perfect. Mommy does everything right. But the reality is that we will always make mistakes. The problem is that very often people don't take responsibility or are accountable for the mistakes they made. I make a lot of mistakes, and I will always apologize and learn from it. And I've seen leaders who make mistakes and just pretend no, that didn't happen. Let's keep moving on. And then that trust that you could have built with somebody just by apologizing and recognizing then doesn't happen. And I think that's sad, right? Because we look to our leaders in leadership to make really hard decisions. And sometimes those decisions are so hard that you're mad at them, but you hope that they're doing the best thing. And so in my capacity now as Associate Dean of Students and Interim Assistant Vice Chancellor and Chief of Staff, we have to make hard decisions all the time, and making every staff person happy is impossible. Learning how to approach each one with sensitivity and thought and empathy takes a lot of time, but I think doing that helps to be able to build that trust, and so that they know that when you make a mistake, you're sorry for it, right? But I don't think that, I think the hardest part of mine, and Edgar's on, our interim vice chancellor, I think the hardest part of our jobs at the level that he and we are at is that we have to make hard decisions, and if it's a hard one that is a selfish one or one that isn't thought through, then you're going to feel bad and you're not going to be able to sleep at night. We have to make decisions so that we can still sleep at night, and they're the best ones for the whole institution. But apologizing and taking responsibility is really important in that process. And then figure out how to tell your own story. I always incorporate my life as an immigrant person into the work that I do, because it's a big part of my identity. And then this thought of your success is not an accident is really important to think about and to encourage in students and staff, because, you know, have you ever thought to yourself, like, oh, I'm so lucky I got this job. I'm so lucky that, I don't know, I got into this school or this program. I always tell people, you were walking by UCI and we're like, hey, come here. You can get in for free, right? No, you worked hard to get to that point. You worked hard to attain the things that you have in life, to get the job that you got. And the moment we can be confident in owning that is the moment we can walk in our truth and go, yes, this didn't just happen. The sky didn't just drop a new job on my head. I worked for that and I earned it. And oftentimes, too, we do this with the help of others. And so recognizing them along the way is really important. This is what I said earlier, live your present as if it were your future. And once you can start imagining yourself to be, okay, I want to be the president of the UC one day. I don't want to be, okay, so I'm not going to take the job. I think that's an incredibly difficult job. But if that was my goal, okay, what do I need to do to actually attain that? And I need to start doing that now, right? If it means waking up earlier to read more about what's happening in the UC system or across the country, then I need to do that. I need to not just let it happen to me. I need to be active in that process. And then control. Who needs control? Nobody here needs control? Yes, we have one person, right? But I am that type A personality. Who's type A here? Okay? Type A personality who needs to know what's happening, who's planning for the future, who is using your voice to make sure you're heard. And as daunting as that is to others, it also is this form of control, right? And what I realized and learned is that we all think we have it, but we really don't. We don't have control over much in the world, right? I think my daughter, this is Elliot, I'm like, okay, I'm going to give you all the lessons in life, and you're just going to listen and follow along and do it. And she's like, no, Mom, I'm still going to run in the middle of the street when I shouldn't be, right? Or thinking that I can train my dog to go, I don't know, sit. And really, and no matter what I do, I can't. Those are just trivial examples, but we really don't have that much control. But we do have the ability to shape our world in the best way that we can. And I think thinking about it's okay to lose control helps us to not be so stressed out. I think so, but I still am type A and I still want control. So good luck to everybody. And then last thing is, don't let anyone get in the way of your brilliance. And I say this I love my parents. Okay, love them, they're great, they did everything for me and will continue to love on me forever. But there was a moment in time where we had to ask for their help to take care of the kids, because we couldn't afford daycare, we couldn't get into daycare, they were retired, so let's ask for their help. They're really great with babies. Are either of them on the call? Hold on. Okay, no, they're not here. I don't think they know how to get on Zoom. Good thing. But there was a time when the kids got old enough that they started being defiant and not listening to them, and then they didn't know how to manage these, American-raised kids in the way that you can't pull on my kid's ear, Mom, right? And so Mike and I had to make the hard decision of asking them to not live with us anymore, not take care of the kids, and they moved to the Philippines. I thought, for one, they were getting in the way of my kids' brilliance and also mine and Mike's. And you never want to have to do a hard thing and say, sorry, family, this isn't working out. But the other reality of that was that they would thrive more in the Philippines with the income that they had, and they had to also not let us get in the way of their happiness. And so they moved to the Philippines, and they come once a year for about 2 or 3 months to just visit and be with family. And then they go back and they're super happy there. But I imagine that if we didn't stand up for ourselves and our own brilliance and what we hope for our lives, they would still be living with us and we would all be really sad and fighting all the time. And so taking that step toward cutting out toxic things in our lives is really important, even though sometimes it's really hard to do. And it took us a while to recover from that, and now it's like it never happened, but I'm still like, that happened, don't okay. And that's it. That's all I got. Thank you all for your time. I really appreciate this, but I also want to recognize that you are all brilliant and amazing in your own ways, and would love to have a conversation. If you have questions I assume that this group is here so that these kinds of conversations can happen, yeah? So if you have any questions specific for me, or if we want to just chat and talk, and I don't know if you're going to ask the Zoom folks to contribute.
Yeah, we have a couple minutes. So
yeah.
We can certainly do that.
So what's next? Once you get your doctorate, what's next?
You know what my dream is? I love cooking. I love cooking. And so I want to quit my job. Don't tell my boss. I was telling Evelyn last night, I want to open a curry bar. And have
to do with you.
Yes. Evelyn's not quitting. I'm not poaching her anymore. But it has Indian curries and Japanese curries and Thai curries, like the sauces, and then you pick your protein. It's like the Chipotle of curry. Yeah. Right? Pick your protein, pick your veggies, and then this is a dream if I had money to do this. I would love to actually be able to spend time cultivating different skills and talents. I want to get a chair in my garage because I cut my staff and other friends' hair in my garage. I want to get a sink in the garage to be able to really cultivate that talent. I want to be able to do things that allow me to have time with my kids. Yeah. I want to be the PTA president one day. Even though I know that's drama, I don't actually want to do that. I want to have time to be able to do that. And so for me to do that means I need one job. I need one job, and it's the expectation that we know I'm going to go back to doing one job, but then also what's next from here? That's a good question. And I know I've been in student affairs forever. I've been in UCI forever. And just now, literally last week, I thought, I don't have to keep doing student affairs forever. Universities are a small city. There's so many things you can do that are not within the same division. And so opening myself up to think differently about different career pathways that will hopefully land me in a place where I'm not working late every night, responding to a million emails and on the phone because there's a crisis happening on campus would be a nice welcome change. So whatever that is, I'll tell you later. See where that goes.
So are you going to go for the permanent position? It says you're.
Yeah. Yes. Right now we're searching for a vice chancellor of student affairs. Edgar Dormitorio, he's our interim vice chancellor of student affairs, but he is usually, his normal job is the ABC chief of staff. So he's been elevated to be interim, and he asked me to help, and I gladly accepted because I love working with him. As associate dean, gave up a couple things, and then doing both now. So when he goes back, then I'll go back.
Unless he goes.
Unless he goes somewhere else and I'm taking his job. Right now, I've only put one plant in the office because I'm like, I'm not settling in. But slowly, I'm going to put more things in. And I'm like, what happened?
So did you just say live your present as a fix in your office?
All right, I'm going to put pictures.
Do the business parts already.
Yes. Okay, remember my boss is on the phone. Let's not get carried away. I'm just going to scratch his name off the card.
Yeah, you know what we're gonna hear anyway.
Do we have any questions online?
I did ask everyone to unmute. If you guys have questions, please unmute yourself, or I can unmute all of you all at once.
You have so much control.
I know, all the power of Zoom. You can also type, because I can see the chat box as well if you don't want to be on audio. Oh, it's right here from Marissa. Talking about deciding when you wanted to be an associate dean at that time. Why did you pursue that? What were you looking to gain out of that experience?
Good question. So what I realized, and a lot of our positions at UCI specifically, you don't get that much experience supervising. And as director of campus orgs, it was at the time, it was me and half of a person. Not she was a whole person, half of her time. And supervising is a skill and talent that I think takes so much time to cultivate, and a lot of people don't do it well, and we're never trained to do it, right? We didn't go to grad school to learn how to supervise, but it's something that we know 80% of the reason why people leave their jobs is because they don't want to work with their supervisor. And I knew that that was going to be part of my trajectory, was I want to be a manager. I want to supervise people and do staff development. And I wasn't getting that as campus orgs director. And Associate Dean of Students oversees the LGBT Resource Center, campus organizations and volunteer programs, Grief Life, the Cross Culture Center, Women's Hub, Fresh Basic Needs Hub, SOAR, Student Outreach and Retention Center, parent programs. I'm like, ooh, that's a lot of things that we're not just the one thing, we can broaden our experience. I could have probably done campus orgs director forever because I love that job, working with clubs. But I didn't have this experience and opportunity to supervise. And at first I was a terrible supervisor. I didn't know what I was doing. And I had imposter syndrome. Have any of you felt like you have imposter? I was like, yeah, right now I do, right? Imposter syndrome because of the fact that I came in, I was 28 when I became director of campus organizations, volunteer programs, and 32 as Associate Dean of Students. And at 32, most of the people, or a lot of people I supervised, were older than me or my peers, and we all came in together. And now I'm supervising my peers. And so I was like, I don't actually know how to behave with you for you to listen. And it took a lot of time. I think maybe after 2 years, I'm like, oh, maybe I'm a good supervisor now. Nobody's mad at me. But not understanding that each person needed to be approached differently for the same situation took a long time, because I'm like, okay, let's do this. And then the person's like, no, why did you make me do that? Or why did you talk to me that way? I didn't realize that my behavior towards someone got a different reaction depending on where they were at in their lives and how they wanted to be approached. So that whole, my thought was, the other piece of it was, and I always think this too, we can't be so big-headed to think that if we leave a position that it's going to be a devastating experience for everyone, right? Like, you know what I'm talking about? Sometimes people are like, oh, I don't want to leave because I just, I have this staff that really like me. Well, they'll adjust, they'll be fine. Give someone else the opportunity to have that experience. And that's actually where I am right now. I've been Associate Dean for 5 years, and I'm sure someone can do it better at this point. But grappling with that and knowing that and actually finding something that'll fit you well next is, that's the hard part, right?
I have a question. I'm wondering, you actually came from, very small, family-oriented environment, and there would have to be a point, where your mindset just shifted. and the sky was the limit
Mhm.
at that point. Can you speak more about what that was for you that just made that shift?
Yeah, okay. Wow, nobody's ever asked that. Let me recall. No, I think, for me, it's, when I was campus orgs director, again, my mentor was 10 years older than me. So when I was almost like, okay, I know her path, I'm gonna follow her path exactly, like a creeper, right? But then differently, because I wanted to have kids and I had different things than she had decided for her life. But when I was campus orgs director at 28, and working with hundreds of clubs who, they all have these big goals and dreams. We want to put on this campus-wide program and have 100,000 people come and Justin Timberlake's going to sing. And I'm like, calm down, right? But the reality is those big dreams, I never saw them for myself in the way that our students see it for themselves, and that I can help them accomplish those things, because I know that my life trajectory isn't to be the person who's creating big national change or worldwide change. I know that my trajectory has been to inspire others to do it, because I'm like, you go do that, I'll watch you. See you later, right? Because I'm not that kind, that's never been a goal, but my goal has always been to help others along that way. Because if you think about it too, our students are going to be our surgeons, our lawyers, we're going to build our bridges. We better set them up to do good for us too, right? And for myself, I didn't have necessarily, I mean, I have mentors and people I look up to, but what keeps me going higher, more and more, is that we can impact on the ground level in the way that we do as programmers and directors and all that, but we can also impact on different levels, like you all are doing here at OP, on a really broad scale if you can impact policy. And so understanding that if I impact policy, I can impact more students positively. That was kind of the shift that I learned as campus orgs director, that I can affect campus organizations policy, but how do I impact campus policy? And when I learned that that was a thing that you could do, was when the other piece of the question that person asked over Zoom is that, you know, when you can actually create the change that you want to make in a different position, then you know it's time to go to. Yeah, so I don't know if there was a pivotal moment necessarily, but I do know that all along the way, I'm learning there's different ways to make change and impact. And again, whether it's opening up a curry bar and making so many people happy that day when they come by, or
Make me happy.
yeah. And impact looks different for everyone, and that's okay. But I don't have aspirations to be a college president or a vice chancellor, even at that. I just feel like I want to be connected to students to be able to continue to lift them up and inspire them to change our world for the better, selfishly and also for yeah. I want to be mindful of time. You have to eat lunch and you have to get going in your lives. But thank you so much. And thanks to everyone on the phone or Zoom. All right, guys.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. Thank you.